Hello, everyone, and welcome to what probably is the weirdest situation I ever thought I could find myself in recording this show. But as I said, and as I warned over on Twitter, I am in a literal closet, as you can tell. I'm not in my usual spot. I'm not in Piraeus, but you gotta make do with what you have. You gotta make do with the situation, and I was never gonna leave you all without content, especially after a win like this. I hope, I hope and pray the sound is bearable. I hope and pray that I don't look too much like a smurf for those of you that are watching on YouTube. And I hope and pray that the divine light on top of me isn't too blinding. Now, this is probably gonna be the whole case just for today. The background is gonna change again tomorrow, and then the show after, I will more than likely be back in my usual spot. But as I said, you have to make do with what you have. So I hope everything's bearable, and I hope you all can withstand this for like a solid 45 where we talk about the game. Getting into the game, though, slowly but surely, of course, a game of three-ish chapters, a game in which we thought would go completely different ways than it did, a game in which we went in with a fighting spirit which we haven't really seen from Olympiacos throughout the entirety of the season this far. We went into it with a fighting spirit that seemed unbeatable, unstoppable. Motion offense was working perfectly. Pana couldn't score to save their lives. And the first half in general looked like signs of a dominant game. But as you and I both know, this is Olympiacos BC and this is the Euroleague. So it was never going to stay like that. So following up, second half comes in, and the game turns completely on its head, in which we struggle to score. Pana gain momentum, none wakes up, he was nowhere in the first quarter, and the game ends up 43 to 43 at the half. Now, moving on, third quarter comes and stuff dies down, both teams can count themselves a lot of misses, missing a lot of open threes, especially, even though a lot of threes were still scored when the game kind of picked up again. And then we head into the fourth. The fourth quarter was a bit on the weirder side. The fourth quarter was relatively mixed. We were keeping a steady lead, but we saw some on and off the court interferences that kept the game close. And of course, at the end of the day, a win is a win, and we win 82 to 87. As I said, we started the game very positively. We started the game on fire from long range. I don't think anyone can really end up complaining about too much scoring wise. We had a solid 18 from 30 from the 2 point. We took a few rushed threes. A lot of open threes were missed, which is something to just keep just a mental note on. I think we ended up, let me actually check. Yes, it's a 32% on the threes, scoring 10 out of 31. And I'm pretty sure we started the game on 4 from 4 or something like that. I'll actually go out and slowly check that. which left us with a solid 26 out of 61 on the field goals. For me, a thing that majorly helped today was the rebounds, especially offensively, which we had a bit of a lead, not too much, with 12 on Pana side and 15 for us. And the defensive ones were 24 in our favor and 21 for Pana. Assists, dominated is a strong word. It was 21 to 15. We had a few more turnovers than Panathinaikos, which led to Pana leading on steals by 1 in the game. Blocks were few to count, but were crucial nonetheless, especially on our side, the 4 blocks that game. And honestly, even streaks of points, both 10, we spent the majority of the game in the lead. And as I said on Twitter, for those of you that do follow me, the main thing to keep from this game is that the ball never lies, which is a phrase kind of overused these days, but it's a phrase that will always stand true. The ball never lies. And I think the biggest example of ball doesn't lie is TJ Shorts running up for what would have been a very crucial layup and completely whiffing the ball and giving the possession to us. I think that's one of the main examples that you can give of ball don't lie. Now, what this game means, as Thomas Walker himself said before the game, this is never a simple game, whether it's a game in early January or the Euroleague final. The derby with Pana will mean, I think, differently in every competition. Like, of course, there's the Super Cup, there's the Cup, there's the GBL, and then, of course, you go on and have the Euroleague derbies. And the streak in which we just more or less are demolishing it, right? At 10-0 now ever since 2021, if I'm not completely mistaken, where Pana won at Steph on overtime. Someone do correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sort of questioning my own knowledge here. But we're talking about a streak that's contained some of the most memorable wins of the recent years. A streak that also includes the game in the Final Four, which on one hand, no one really ended up caring about. On the other hand, it's still a place above in the end, which against your eternal enemy, it means everything, right? And then you have today's win. Today's win can either be chalked down as one of two things, in my opinion. The first thing is an important win against Pana and a continuation of a streak that probably won't end anytime soon. At this rate, Ataman is never going to beat Olympiacos in the Euroleague. But it can also be the second thing, which in my opinion is even more important, and that's a turning point. We saw ourselves before the holidays picking up some momentum with 2 very good victories against the relatively struggling but sort of keeping themselves up Villeurbanne, and a fighting at home Bologna. Now, we are early-ish, like the first round just ended. We are early-ish in the season still. We stand in a position of stuff to be desired, and we stand also in a position of success, perhaps not having come our way due to some unlucky moments, due to some stuff not going our way, due to us messing up, due to missing pieces, which we will hopefully cover very soon. Pray to God, Tyreek Jones, right? And of course, I am trying my best to keep a low profile in the whole Tyreek Jones saga, as I want to be absolutely certain that something's going to happen before giving any information to all of you, like always. But we even saw it today. I'm going on a bit of a side tangent here, but I've been someone that usually defends signings, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. Throughout the first half, quote unquote, of the season, I've gone on to defend Donta Hall. I've gone on to point out the positives that he brings, because at least up until a certain point of the season, it looked like he was building up some momentum for a few games. And then, as I mentioned, from Valencia onwards, it just crashed and burned. And I think it's one of the few times in which I'll call a player irredeemable. And I think the absence of Milutinov is the one that's felt the strongest when the first unit isn't playing. And to, again, the side tangent on a side tangent, the first unit can't play 40 minutes. Like, asking for B to give Milutinov 35 game in, game out is impossible. It falls on him as well that we don't have a proper backup, and that Hall didn't work out as he should have. But we need to protect our best players. That falls on Sas, that falls on Nico, and that falls on everyone in between. Asking for the first unit to play 40 minutes because the second unit is lackluster in general is an impossible task put on a team that doesn't need it on their head. Focusing back on Hall, perhaps I am a bit of an extremist when it comes to judging players. But that vision from today, in which Donta completely whiffs a dunk, can't leave my head. We're talking about an athletic player. We're talking about a beast of a 5 when he wants to be. But we're also talking about a very inconsistent player. We're talking about a player that seems slow on the defensive end, and we're talking about a player that needs to work on a lot of things. I'm not going to call Donta useless, because he's not. He brings a lot of things, especially offensively, but we need someone better as a backup to Nico Milutinov, and I think everyone knows that. And that's where we come in to the Tyreek Jones situation. That's where we come in to a situation that's turned into a saga again, in which Dubai has been pulled in. Lately, Maccabi has been pulled in. Agreements were mentioned, agreements that weren't true in the end. The team's getting closer. Tyreek's want to come to Olympiacos with how bad stuff has gotten at Partizan. And what I can say, at least at this specific point in time, is that I hope that Partizan finds a replacement soon enough so we can get this thing done. Take the next statement as opinion only, because that's solely what it is. But if we end up at the conclusion that Partizan brings in a 5, a proper big, I don't really see a scenario in which we lose Tyreek Jones to another team. What I'm a bit fearful about is Tyreek staying at Partizan, but I still think that has the minority of chances. I still think we're the straight-on favorites to land Tyreek Jones. But again, that's an opinion. So what I urge of you all is what I usually urge of you all, and that's patience. Patience to see what happens, because with all the media work that's going on, whether it benefits one side or another, whether it wants to disrupt something or anything else, we'll all go insane. So as I've been telling you from the beginning, please be patient with any transfer, let alone ones that are necessary enough for the media to turn into a whole horror book saga, okay? Don't lose your heads. I'm positive. You should be positive as well. I always advise you to be positive because that's just how I see things in basketball and in general with Olympiacos. I truly do tend to at least want to start seeing things positively, but on a realistic term as well, I think we should be positive with this one. But going back to what I was saying, Tyreek is a necessity because since we have actually been given the chance to have, in my opinion, and I think undoubtedly at this point, the best big in the league as our starter, backed up by the arguably third best in the league as our second unit 5, I can't see us losing this chance. And for what this will bring to the team, I'll wait to talk about when we hopefully announce him. As a general note, though, I saw a lot of things, and I won't lie, I said a lot of things during the game as well, because stress happens and opinions change and emotions are charged. I saw a lot of things about Barzokas, as always, and I saw a lot of things about specific players. There were the bad parts of this game and the underperforming parts. There were the good parts and there were the neutral parts. I'll explain where I'm going with this. For example, Barzokas. I think that Barzokas is in the neutral to good parts of this game. I don't think he coached the game badly. I don't think he approached the game badly. I'm pretty sure he's the coach with the most wins in Oaxaca now. And I'm positive enough to say that he's considered an expert in how to handle this derby. If there is one complaint that I do have from Barzokas from today, it's how he handled that goddamn second quarter. Because I saw Wise Moore is still playing, for example, he proved to be vital in the end. Same for Ivan Fournier, proved to be crucial in the win. But that second quarter for me was handled very badly, not just from the players, but from Barzokas as well. Letting Pana build up momentum, which again may be considered inevitable after a point, because I don't think that anyone really truly expected this game to just end with a plus 20 on our end. But the way that momentum shifted was very sudden, and some stuff could have been avoided, again, in my opinion, but who am I to talk? But in general, going from best coach in the league and stuff to the second quarter calling him useless and saying that he should quit is usual in-game talk from fans, again, air quotes, that always overreact. Speaking of semi-overreacting, Evan Fournier, since I spoke about him going into the personal performances of the game, which were varying at minimum. We saw a weird thing from Evan Fournier today. Of course, Evan sadly is in the bad parts of this game, but I'll explain why, even though he redeemed himself at the end. There are a few games, as I said, because I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I only put that pressure on Sasha, where you expect certain people to step up. Evan Fournier has more than stepped up in the games against Pana in general. You all know which game came to mind, but today, attacking wise, he was nowhere. Like, let's not lie to ourselves. There is other people who stepped up attacking wise, which we'll get into in a bit. But the defense and the off-ball movement that he showed at the end, and especially on the top of his notes from this game, that offensive foul that he won in the end is half the win. And I don't think that anyone will go out and say that I'm exaggerating with that, because when you are in an environment like that, with a game that is that close, those details matter. As I said, it's TJ just completely whiffing. It's the offensive foul that Evan won, and it's that Dorsey shot, which we'll get into. But in general, Evan had a weird game, as I said, an unexpected game, putting up just 2 points with 3. Let me actually make sure I have this correctly. Putting up just 2 points with 3 assists and just a net neutral rating of 0. I don't really pay attention to the ratings, to be honest. But I think that the 0 and the, well, Sofa has him at a 5.5. I would put him at a dead neutral. 6 for Sofa, 5 for general ratings. Because for me, he redeemed himself at the end. But in games like this, I would expect Evan to step up a bit more. Speaking of stepping up, speaking of showing up off the ball, and speaking of having a weird game, Thomas woke up, putting up 3 points, having 4 rebounds to his name, and having 5 assists. Thomas had a weird game, and I don't think I can exactly place him somewhere, because he didn't have a bad game, but he is bouncing back from a weird performance, in which, of course, he got ejected. It's, on one hand, it's a usual walk-up game, perhaps below his standards, and on the other hand, it's a game kind of gone unnoticed in a good way, especially defensively, with his forte being his dirty work, quote unquote. But of course, he was also on a restricted time because of the fouls he had and because of Monte Morris, who we'll get into again. Nilikina, I don't have much to say. Nilikina showed up in an unexpectedly good way last time, and he kept a consistent mediocre pace today. I think that's a fair-ish way to put it. again, aiming no disrespect, but seeing Nilikina adjust, get the limited game time now behind Montemoris as well, I think he's earning his place of a role player who will come in, keep the game steady, help defensively, of course, and once in a while show the hell up, because Frank Nilikina knows a lot more basketball than people give him credit for, despite him, of course, not being the shooter that we needed up until a certain point. Now, perhaps the surprise of the game for me, and that's, of course, the man that's playing his second Euroleague game, that's Montemoris. Montemoris played 17 today, put up 8, had 2 rebounds to his name, and 3 assists. Monte had a weird one. As I said the last time, the signs he's showing as a true out-and-out playmaker are incredible. The signs he's showing for me are incredible. But to play devil's advocate to the positives as always, he needs to quickly, sadly, get up to Euroleague pace, because he's not. As he said, he is at around 70%, and if this is still 70% of Montemoris, and he starts taking big steps towards his best, dare I say that we finally found the guard that we needed alongside Thomas Walker. I'm loving the signs I'm seeing from him. The way he plays basketball, the way he moves the ball, the way he moves off the ball, the risks he's taken. Of course, he needs to find his hand, he needs to find his shooting form. I'm not denying that. And I don't know if I'm being too overly positive. You all can tell me that in the comments, of course. But I'm hopeful. And I'm not even hesitantly hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful about what's to come from Montemoris. Now, the close runner, what a problem to have, right? Not knowing who to give MVP to between like 4, 5 players. Kostas Papanikolaou. Captain, fantastic, and once again, the undeniable proof that when Pap plays good basketball, the entire team will play good basketball. Papanikolaou, of course, putting up 8, having 2 rebounds to his name, and 1 assist, along with a block to his name, changed the entirety of the game when he was on the field. He did miss a few more open threes than perhaps he should have, especially near the end there. But everything he gave today, from the passion alone to the sky high effectiveness that he had, and again, from the passion alone that Papanikolaou brings to the game, the entirety of the team, for the entirety of the game, which is what I wanted to say, goes up levels, goes up a lot of levels. And most times that doesn't get appreciated enough. And with people calling him washed, with people calling him slow, with people saying that he should retire, he'll keep showing out, he'll keep showing up, and he'll keep helping the team to the successes it deserves. Now, Speaking of the best big in the goddamn league, one of the two that is looking and eyeing and praying on that MVP trophy, in my opinion, still, and one of the two in the team that's having the best season of their career, and of course, I am talking about the dominant and the irreplaceable at this rate, Nico Milutinov. Playing 26, putting up 10, having 9 rebounds, having 3 assists, and having a block and a steal to his name. Are there really any words to say about Nico Milutinov? Are there really any more words to say about Nico Milutinov? Having to face Kenneth Farid, having to face Omer Yurtseven, and the joke of a big that is Dinos Mitoglu, he killed it. He killed it. There is no simpler way to put it. He helped the team incredibly, both rebounding wise, both defending wise, and of course securing points. 2 incredible dunks that left the whole of the T Arena shocked, as always. And he stepped up. He simply stepped up as he should have. And for the two that really stepped up, and for credit to be given right where it's due with 24, 9, and 1, that's Sasha Vezenkov. Sasha, as I said, is a player that I expect to step up every single game. Of course, bad nights are human, bad nights are excused. But when I said that I personally expect a bit more from a player with the talent and the basketball knowledge of Sasha Vezenkov, that's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. Putting up an incredible performance against Panathinaikos, showing up in one of the most important games of the season, putting up true Sasha Vezenkov numbers in the end, and having a game of incredible proportions, having a game of wonderful and, dare I say, superstar proportions. Now, perhaps the best for last, my personal MVP, even though again it's close, the man that perhaps is having even more of a career-defining season than Nico Milutinov, the man on a mission, and the man that's not gonna drop off at all, as it seems, and that's Tyler Dorsey. A performance that could have even been way more impressive, but was impressive and clutch enough, as I said, with that shot at the end, similar to last game, and similar to a lot of instances this season. He put up a very, very solid 21, 4, and 3 with another very crucial steal to his name. As flawless as it gets, even though he's had literal flawless games this season. Crucial, effective, calm, cool, and collected. No words for Tyler. Same for Nico, having incredible seasons, proving themselves as completely irreplaceable and fitting the mold of what the season needs perfectly. Now, standing wise, we're standing at 7th, an 11-7 record with a game to be played, of course, a game less can easily go up to 12-7 and catch Pana. The thing that I'll say and the way that I'll end the game looking forward is honestly the thing I started with, and that's that this can very, very easily be a turning point in the season. In a season in which, if hopefully we get the big that we need, a lot of wonderful things can happen. Of course, we play Fenerbahce next, and then Bayern. Of course, we play Aris as well, but that's a whole different thing. We can get 2 out of 2 from that way. We can get 2 out of 2. If we play like today, and maybe even better, we can get a very solid 2 out of 2. The season is still very long, but these boys will continue making us proud. That's about it from me today. Hope I covered everything. If I missed anything, do drop it in the comments, even if you're watching after. Apologies again for the situation. I hope it was bearable. I hope to at least have found a better background for tomorrow. And hopefully, I'll see you all tomorrow for an even better start to the year with back-to-back wins in the derby and a trophy football. Thank you all for a wonderful start 2026, and we're marching onto a historic year. I ended 2025 with a heartfelt video which you all gave incredible love to. Your messages, your comments, and everything in between are more than appreciated. I told you all my thoughts about how you shaped 2025. If you haven't seen the thank you video, I usually don't do this, but I urge you to please go see the previous video, which is called 2025 an Olympiacos look back, I'm pretty sure, in which I, as always, pour my heart out openly to you. And especially if you're new, I urge you to start with that video to see what RSP means to me, to see what RSP will continue being, and to see what RSP will bring to the table. We ended 2025 with a big one, and we're gonna start 2026 with an even bigger one. See you all tomorrow. I can't even extend my dumb hand to properly do it. But as always, thank you.